Alright, I wanted to do a little bit of a combo video, talk about the minor update to the Ninja Lawyer guest. I did one when it first updated, but I guess there were some errors with the calculations. And then, so it's been nerfed. It's still very, very, very good. Both the choke mode and the Elevone mode are, in my opinion, the two best. One of the best guests in the game, in my opinion. The only drawback is it's SP only. I don't really care for SP only upkeeps, especially with the stat revamp coming up. SP upkeep for non-charisma trained players with booster guests they're going to be pretty screwed. But I wanted to talk about how you can Elevone stack with this guest, and then you can use there's model 294 that's a darkness Elevone. But if you wanted to spend an ultra rare on Silas, it does a dual darkness and fire Elevone at Ellie Seeks, whatever's the greater of the two, but the darkness fire Elevone is always there. It does have like a control mode, but no one uses control in this game. It's a bad status. And so if you're able to do celerity, like with Clever Disguise or Shadow Feeder Pendant, and then I'll actually show you a trick with the shieldcakes, and that's part of the combo video. But what you're going to be able to see is how the Elevone stacking is actually enhancing total damage. For example, if this pet was a straight darkness Elevone, it would stack on top of this darkness Elevone differently than, because this is a dual element Elevone. It's a pure damage mod, instead of trying to consider, like, if you had 2 rounds at 200% and it applied an Elevone, it would stack differently than it currently does, and which means there's going to be more damage there. So a lot of people like to maybe Clever Disguise spam in Soul Neko, and the value of doing Elevone stacking is because it will inflict burns and bleeds. So in this case, like for example, versus this monster, you're going to get a darkness burn, and if you do celerity, it'll do it twice, then a darkness burn, and both times here. And so that tends to stack. But when you have the Elevone, then it's enhancing that darkness burn. You can actually do a couple thousand damage in just burn damage. And so the result is, when you combine, especially by round 2, because of the way the Elevones work, you will start to do so much damage that, even though this is a Beastmaster armor that starts off as a full defensive lean, if you consider the total damage from the pet and guests, as well as the burn and the bleed that's there, your total damage, in my opinion, rivals, if not outright exceeds, like fully offensive setups. Yeah, you're not going to hit damage caps and stuff, which is possible with a bunch of damage mods, which are designed for the player damage, and there's not a whole lot of options for pet and guest damage stacking, but you'll see it on full display here. So what I'm going to do, actually, instead of Clever Disguise spamming, where you just equip Clever Disguise and you just click it and click it and click it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a trick with Shieldcake. Shieldcake will turn any armor into Bard of War, but it's guaranteed. It's not going to be a roll. As a result, you can replace Clever Disguise with any other misc, which in this case, I will use Optico, and you're going to potentially see some ridiculous damage here. So the way this works, so I have the multi-malt on the positive BTH lean mode. That will actually hurt my damage potentially, but all my pet and guest attacks will land. So the way this works is, okay, so I have 45 charges on the Shieldcake. The first thing you need to do Actually, I'm going to back out because this monster is lower level than when you can stack charges. And I could have seen that before I started. Okay, so we want to make sure darkness is above fire. What I'm going to do here, I'm actually going to flee once more, because this motherfucker has 113 MRM, and I don't really feel like dealing with that, just to showcase the capability. Alright, so in this case, fire and darkness is 110. I actually am going to need to make sure darkness is the highest, as the Silas will default to fire for some reason. Alright. Lost on my luck on that. Hopefully I won't have to flee 58,000 times here. Alright, this will maybe be alright because of the amount of hit points. Okay, let's start with that. 104 MRM is not ideal. Alright, so the way this works is the first thing you want to do is celerity. So if you can see, so there's 47 charges. So celerity costs 28, but you're going to actually gain a couple charges for taking a turn. But what first thing you're going to do is you're going to this method is replacing clever disguise. So there's going to be no player attack. So what you're going to do then is bake. So you have celerity for your whole side, right? So you're going to bake. So that's going to be plus 20. So you went from 47 and now you're up to 40. So you gained the 20 plus the 1 for your turn. But now what you're going to do is you're going to spend 10 for your charisma. So now you have 160 added charisma. So that's in this particular armor, because it has the plus 50 toggle. You're now at 460 charisma. And then, so now you're down to 30, but if you bake, you're going to go to 51. So if you remember, you were at 47 when you first started. So doing this, you're getting celerity, bake, charisma, bake. Celerity, bake, charisma, bake. And what that does is it turns any armor into Bard of War. From the standpoint of Pet and Guest going twice, you're just foregoing your player attack, which is what you're going to be doing anyway with Clever Disguise. So now you're not spending SP to do it, and you've gained status potence, and you've gained Pet Lucky Strikes. So this method is actually probably better. And so I'm going to bake, and so what you're going to see now, so this guy's going to go twice. So we have the 264 Elevone, and then we've got the 167 now from Silas. Now keep in mind, they changed the Elevone from multi-turn to one turn. That is actually better. Some may call it a nerf, but in this scenario, it's not. It's actually a buff. Because of this fact. There are some statuses, and elemental vulnerability is one of them. And actually, if you read this, it says elemental vulnerability. There's an extra L in there. I've never noticed that. Has anybody else noticed that? So anyway, so we have 264 and we have 167. What I'm going to do now, and I could have done it last round, I just forgot. So let's go ahead and eat some hit points in favor of... It's probably going to fail because it's this fucking dragon. Alright, so now we have 167, which is multiplied on top of 264, which is multiplied on top of 125. So it's multiplicative, so your damage is going to skyrocket. Now, keep this in mind. I'm going to go through this whole process again. I'm going to celerity, I'm going to bake, and then I'm going to charisma, and then I'm going to bake again. The reason why you want to do your charisma second is because it will last on both turns of your Pet and Guest. If you did celerity, and then charisma, then bake, you would actually lose a turn of your plus 160 bonus. So you need to make sure you bake one time first, then add your charisma bonus. So that way both hits of both your pet and guest will count for that buff. Now, what's going to happen right now is this guest is going to inflict a brand new line of elemental vulnerability, which is going to stack on top of every one of these 0 round Elevones. So the amount of damage that this guest is going to do is going to be ridiculous. In addition, we currently have a 2 round 1.4 power burn, which is also going to grow. The amount of burn damage is going to be ridiculous. Now, there is a chance that when this guy goes twice, and when this guy starts to go, he'll actually have both guest Elevones listed, the Zfinity Power Elevone listed, and it's 167.2 from the previous turn. So what you're talking about is let's say I get the same amount of Elevone this time. So you have 264 listed twice, okay, and then you have your 167 and your 125. You're going to be doing multiples more damage because of this. Silas will go one time and it'll inflict 133. When it goes a second time, all of these items will still be there, including the Elevone it had just inflicted. So by using your shieldcake, you're getting celerity, you're getting the charisma boost, and you can use this for the status potence to make sure that the Elevone lands, and the pet hypercrit. There is a very good chance that this 5,000 damage is gone even before the burn and the bleed take shape. But in the event that it's not, you will see a rather large darkness burn. If this guy lucky strikes twice, this guy's going to be dead. I guarantee it. You're going to see, you might even see one hit exceed this number by itself. But it's yet to be seen. Now keep in mind, their damages are lower because I'm increased my BTH. So keep in mind the damage that you're going to see is actually lower. And I'm only doing this because of this 104 MRM. But let's see what happens. So the guest is going to be doing some pretty large damage. 1,500 basically. 3922. It didn't even get a chance to go twice. So let's go to Combat Practice Trainer. And I'm going to do this again. And this is... Actually, I'm not, because of the 100% resistance throughout. It's going to cause Silas to seek fire. Alright. So again, all I need to do... I'm going to change my weapon. I should probably try to get Foam Finger for this. Plus 50 damage. That'll increase this guy's damage a lot too. So again, celerity, bake, charisma, bake. As you can see, just the pet just did 3,100 damage by itself. And that's just on the first turn. You could probably do 8,000 or 10,000 damage versus some of these monsters using this strategy. And you know there's a shield cake for darkness, fire, water, and light. So you can have 4 elements covered and you can just sit here and do this. Let's see if I can find a monster with a little bit more hit points. Wish you could modify the practice trainer, give it like a little bit more. Alright, so we got some Prime Chaos Orb lean changes, but the monster's too low level to do this. You know, low level monster, just swap to Clever Disguise and you'll be fine. So we'll just do this one more time, and you're just gonna see some craziness on these numbers. It's 251 that time. I believe the Elevone on the guess actually scales. And so let's do this one more time. So basically, you're probably able to mow through. Oh, I didn't check my HP, but it didn't matter. You're able to mow through 8,000 or 10,000 hit points in 2 rounds, versus most monsters. So the one-turn Elevone is actually more powerful for Beastmasters than the old version, even though it's technically a nerf. But as you can see, if you play with this a little more and you fight a monster with maybe 10 or 15,000 hit points, you'll actually be able to see the burn might do 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 damage by itself, on top of the damage that you're seeing here. So it's just, it's very powerful. That's why I really like Elevone status for guests and pets, because of the way you can stack it. If you were to use Fire and Earth, you can use Independence Dagger, Ancient Mother's Staff for further enhancements to Elevone. The whole thing is just extremely powerful. But there you have it.